All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Approval of the minutes. We have none this time, right? Or do we?
Nope.
Presentations none, old business none. New business, talking about permission for shooters at Bar and Grill and the community liquor stores, I guess, right? To
Nope. La Placita Mexican Restaurant 2 and the Appleton VFW to sell beer at a defined schedule for baseball games hosted at the City of Appleton baseball field pursuant to Minnesota statutes 340A.404.
Motion to allow Shooters Bar and Grill, La Placita Mexican Restaurant 2 and the Appleton VFW to sell beer at baseball games scheduled during the months of June through September pursuant Minnesota statute 340A.404.
I'll second.
motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion?
The Minnesota statutes allows a governing body such as the municipality to allow for businesses that hold the license to be able to sell beer or the harder stuff if you want at a city-sponsored game at a city-sponsored location. In this case, we're only speaking about beer, and it's something that we think will incentivize and add to what we're trying to do with increasing the recreational activities in our community.
Any other discussion?
This is what we did last year.
Last year, no. Last year, we approved typical off-sale and on-sale liquors, but that was for the businesses proper at their businesses.
So this actually being sold on the field is the first time?
It was sold there in the
Officially, yeah.
past when my son played A's baseball. It was actually somebody sold beer there. I don't know how that all happened at that time.
And I'd just like to say, you know, the Appleton Golf Course also sells beer. So it's not unheard of. Also calling around neighbors and such to have, it's not unheard of for malt beverages to be sold at games. The same rules apply. The businesses have to be licensed and have insurance, and they can't serve to minors, obviously.
And that license and insurance has to be on file at our office?
We have it already for all of these businesses.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Legal grease on my glasses. I can't even-
Make a motion to direct the city administrator to seek legal interpretations for the provision and limitations listed within section 111.05 of the city ordinance, and further to direct the city administrator to begin the process of amending said ordinance if required under the direction of the city attorney.
Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second?
Will there be any discussion?
We have on the books some ordinances that direct and control how alcohol is consumed. There's some confusion about its application in this instance, and so we need some direction from the city attorney. Depending on her analysis, it may be required that we amend the ordinance, and so I'm asking permission to go ahead and start that if she determines that it's necessary.
Yeah, I'd like to see the ordinances in line so that this type of thing can go on without any legal issues. And it's a good idea to look into it.
Any other discussion? I think this is a good idea to get this in line. So like when we have Apple Fest, remember we had a little bit of discrepancy when we had beer at the Apple Fest car show and stuff. I mean, there was some, or that Rib Fest thing. So I mean, if we can get that all taken care of in one thing, it'd be good.
Right.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Baseball Association lease structure and maintenance for the Appleton baseball field discussion.
There are a lot of residents that want to see recreation incentivized and motivated within our community, and I'm all for supporting that. And I would like to discuss with the council the possibility of supporting an organization if they were to incorporate So like a baseball association, a lot of communities have hockey rink associations, baseball associations, football associations. And if they're strategized and used in the right way, they can be self-sustaining and even profitable. So this is the start of possibly something that'll be long running for the community and in the interest of the community's recreational activities. I just wanted to get some feedback from you. We currently do have a similar structure for our golfing activities. As you all know, the golfing center is owned by the city, but it's provided general operation maintenance oversight by the golfing board, if you will. And it works very well. The city does appropriate some money to the golf every year, and that is something that we should consider herein after that association is formed.
I agree. I think somebody to a group of people that could go up there and really just fine tune. There's so much intricacies and small things that have to be done and time that needs to be put in there. It's very hard on the city to try to take that on themselves. So to have another committee to take on a lot of those responsibilities, I think would be good for our city overall.
Well, nobody understands if they haven't played organized sports that a baseball field, I mean, half of your safety is how well the infield goes to the grass, and you can't have lips and humps. And I mean, kids can get hurt. So I mean, it is a safety thing too. There's more than just maintenance. It's a safety issue. So
Like it's more than just mowing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
other.
cutting the edges of the baselines and keeping the grass from creeping into the agri alignment. I mean, having the pitchers mound the right slope and everything is, I mean, because it all changes the trajectory of their pitches if your pitching mound is a different height and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot more to it than people realize.
Also, I don't know what a pinch amount is. So people who know that would be good. And I just want to share, I've been riding around the city on my bike, trying to get steps in and stuff. And for the last year and a half, maybe a little bit longer because of COVID and other conditions, I haven't heard any children, haven't heard any fun. And it's a little bit of a downer. The last couple of weeks, I could hear cheering and people playing from my house all the way on Ronning. And when you go up, there's life, there's activity, and I think it's important for our community.
Well, not only that, but it keeps the kids busy, keeps them out of trouble, and we have less problems in town. And hopefully, you know, when we send them away from Appleton, we're sending away good kids.
Hopefully they come back.
Hopefully they come back. Well, they gotta go off, get some school and they come back.
I will say that we're calling them kids just because we're all getting up there in age, but a lot of the kids that are participating are in their late teens, early 20s. And it's nice to try to incentivize them to be part of the community and hold their sports and such in the city.
So move on to budget consideration, 2023 baseball.
Do you need anything from us?
We're moving down the line on that. Yep. I think the next item on the agenda addresses some of that help. So for 2023, currently there is not an item on your budget for consideration of appropriation. My office is asking for permission to include baseball field appropriation into the budget process. So right now we include community rec, we include golf, and I'd like to include the baseball field recreational activities and potentially consider $5,000 appropriation subject to the Baseball Association being established and the budget process, of course.
And
Well, how, is there any way we can make that one venue up there? I mean, so you have your softball field, and you've got your baseball field, and if they can appropriate it where we can get both of them fixed up. Because I mean, summer rec is gonna need that softball field too, so if you start an association, I'd like to make it, they take care of that whole venue kind of situation where it's a softball field and the baseball field, because they're right side by side there.
Okay, so when the association structures and is established, part of what we can do in the agreement is include those items.
And I mean, there's enough people in the community that can help with equipment and stuff. I mean, for fixing fence and that kind of thing. But I just think it'd be good to make that one venue, because even if, say, Lacaparo would start playing some of their home games here, you could possibly have a B squad game or a C squad game they could play on that other field, you know, and it'd be usable, or even for practice.
I have talked to Tony Smith, you know, off the record, that he did say when he was down there playing, coaching the kids at 7A, I said, there's no reason the Eagle has to only score. I said, if we get some venue here that has bathrooms, and you can have, he said, half the home games here, half the home games.
That's encouraging.
So I think it's good for us as a community to move forward. You know what I mean? To keep a positive, to get people here and draw them in. I mean, we got to start being proactive instead of reactive.
And he actually brought up junior region tournaments where they would be played at Lacaparo, Madison, and here on the weekend. And if you start getting 3 fields in this area, you go to Corporate Rose, and they would come and play. They got it.
All right, do we have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to include a $5,000 appropriation for the baseball field in preparation of the 2023 annual budget and levy. Final approval is subject to the budget process and the establishment of a baseball association to provide for the leasing and or maintenance of the city baseball field. And softball.
Yeah, you can add in softball because it wasn't.
I second that.
Motions are made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion?
Only that recreation is a big part of every community, just like Appleton.
Well, I think it'll help us get younger families to move in here if we can get the recreation side of our community going. I mean, that's part of the drag we have here, is nothing for the kids to do. So I think this is a positive move here.
I'd like to share, my office just received a letter from the state demographer's office, and our estimated population is 1 short of what's on our sign. So we have recovered our population losses. We are now at 1,411. When I started, we were at 1,356 people. So that is communal efforts, and we're hoping to get some younger families, younger people, and all kinds of backgrounds interested in being in Appleton.
If I can know, our association hasn't started yet. But one thing, and we could get council approval to build a temporary dugout, because it is a safety issue. Those kids, we try to keep them behind the fence and on the bleachers, but they all want to sit. You know, when I was talking to John Hanke today, what about if we would get permission to build a dugout where the existing one was? And then paint it red and white and build it good enough so it could be picked and moved over to the softball field, and you can build another identical one at the softball field. Yes, we wouldn't be wasting material, wasting lumber in that way, because we don't want to build any dugouts right now, because towers have to come down, there's some things that have to be set up, right? So we're just wondering, because it's a safety issue too, trying to keep kids safe. You know, Tucker did it in week with the ball and they get right arm and a broken arm. I mean, it is a safety issue, but we would like to get something there. Could we try to take the kids and players behind that?
I think.
Could you finish the motion and
Yeah.
passing, and then I'll address this for you?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yep, I think what Mr. Drew was going to say is salient and appropriate. Part of the issue is getting people to do the work. We're covered in terms of our insurance to replace the dugout completely.
Yep.
It's about getting contractors in who have the time and the availability to do the work. If we can get somebody to do it, yes, because under insurance, we're covered. It's not a cost to the city.
How about, I mean, if we don't have to build per se a permanent dugout, like he's saying, we just build a portable one so that we can lift it up, move it, put it over on the other field. When we do replace the dugout then. So, I mean, if that could come under the next motion, that they could take money from that,
Okay,
just to pay for the material. there's enough guys out there that are wood butchers that can, you got a saw.
Yep.
Yeah,
So if you do that, I would say that you should limit the expense. It would come out of the recreation fund,
Yep.
not to exceed $8,000. Is that about enough
Yeah.
money to do this?
That's way more than it actually be.
Well, how much do you think is
better to have
needed?
a little bit more than nothing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, because if you don't need more than $5,000, then they don't have to pass a motion because I could approve it.
Yeah, that should be enough for that. It'd just be 3 walls and a roof on that small.
Yeah.
So if you,
John, not to slow this down, but could we see maybe, or could the office possibly see your plans and how you want to do it? When you get an idea on how to build it, or
Yeah, I'm just looking at,
just make sure it's like,
because after the 7th May fair game, Ryan Fernald's called me, they want to play the junior region game.
Yeah.
down there, and the ball's starting to roll, so I'm just
Yeah.
like, you know,
I think there's no harm in council approving up to $8,000. If it doesn't come out that much, we certainly won't use it. So approve the amount and the source, which is the recreation fund. That'll be okay.
But that's the other one, right? Yeah. Motion to allow for improvements at the city baseball field in the amount of not to exceed $5,000.
Make that 8. Make that 8.
8.
We'll make that 8,000. So,
8,000.
yeah, and it'll come out of the I mean, we'll have people watching it. It ain't like they're gonna.
No, they're not.
Make a motion not to exceed $8,000. And that will come from the recreation fund with $1,000 of that to be allocated for the portable,
For porta potty
you know,
or,
for the portable dugout.
oh, okay, okay. I've never heard of a portable dugout, sorry.
It will be.
we're reinventing the wheel a little bit. All right.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Will there be any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorize city administrator to submit grant to,
Well, we're skipping one here. There are some actual repairs that should happen now that I have put before you. There's a Diamond Doctor, and I'm not making this up. That is the name of the business. Mr. Chris Bean specializes in repairs of the fields for baseball fields. And he's said that it should be between $4,500 to $5,000 to make the repairs described to him. Working together with Mr. Drugsma and Mr. Heineke, your brother, not you. We identified to Mr. Beans the following work that needs to be done. The number one biggest issues are the pitcher's mound, home plate, field edging, and how the low spot in the right field, dead spot currently. The field is being used by our youths here in our community. And Mr. Bean says that while his year is filled up, he could possibly have just to put us on the books and have the mound and plates rebuild and edging renovations, which are all pretty similar. And the work will run about $4,000 to $4,500 plus labor and materials.
And does that include any work in right field? Not right now? Okay.
Just for
the field.
And I called around, so I called North Branch and I called Cloquet, and they're very happy with the work. And he submitted some copies of his work. Is this kind of what you want it to look like out there? Is that the standard?
Looks like he's worked in a lot of ball fields in the area, like almost all of them that I can see. I saw that he had worked here about 10 years ago.
So I'm asking for permission to go ahead and use $5,000 from the recreation fund for immediate repairs to that field,
So this would be in addition to the dugout.
in addition to the dugout.
In addition to the $8,000 that is already.
Right.
8,000's for the dugout. This would be for infield work.
Yep.
I would guess that dugout's gonna be between $2,500 and $3,500 is what that'll be. I mean, that's just, they're not gonna build anything extravagant, so.
On the permanent one, it's made.
Yeah.
You know, other than this dugout, I think it's important that we start with the field. and even more importantly, start with the infield and work our way out to the outfield, and then we can address the other issues we got out there. So I think in my opinion, we're starting at the right place. Motion allow for improvements at the city ball field in the amount not to exceed $5,000 and for the payment to be made from the recreational fund.
No, we're 5 on this one, 8 on his. correct?
Did I say 8?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I meant 5. Motion to allow improvements at the city ball field in the amount not to exceed $5,000 and for the payment to be made from the recreational fund.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion?
Yep, so just want to remind council, we have a healthy recreation fund, but this recreation fund, it collects about $6,000 a year. It's about 85 cents that is on our bill. So if you divide $147,988.84 by 6,000, this means that it took us about 20 years to raise this money. Recreation includes library, includes pool, includes a lot of things. So we want to be cautious how we do this. Of course, we haven't really touched this fund with any real motivation until now, and it is a justified cost. Thank you for taking that on, but I want to let you guys know what's in there and that we have to be strategic because we have a library project that may have some cost overalls, which might come from here. Okay, that's it.
Okay, did we vote on this yet or not? Motion is
Discussion.
I want one more question. So totally, what we're gonna take out of the recreation fund is roughly $13,000.
Up to, yes.
Up to.
$13,000. Okay, I'm good with that. I just didn't want to leave it.
So that then the remaining balance would be $134,988.84.
Any other
Just
discussion?
just one more thing, Willie. Because that one dugout was taken out by the storm, can any of that relief money that we got coming in go back into the recreational fund if we take it out?
It's currently, so there's relief money and then there's insurance money.
Okay.
The dugout is covered under insurance, so it can't also be covered by FEMA.
Okay.
Typically, the FEMA is a mechanism for anything not covered by insurance. Right now, we are at a rough estimate of $106,000 in total loss, including mainly the trees in the cemetery, which are not covered by our insurance because they're more than 100 feet away from the one structure in the cemetery. So those are about 26 trees in total, which would cost us, if you do $1,000 per tree. So they would pay for the removal of the trees, but they won't pay for the replacement of the trees.
Yeah.
So I was just at a meeting this morning that was all explained to me. That's a good question. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorize city administrator to submit a grant to MNDNR for baseball field. Council action.
Motion to authorize the city administrator to submit a grant to the Minnesota Division of National Resources for the repair of baseball field.
The second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion?
My hopes are that I can go ahead and see if they can push beyond the parameters of what they do with these funds. The state has informed me that this grant is predominantly for the grounds, the natural components of a baseball field. So eventually the mounds, the grass, all of that. And I'm gonna go ahead and see if they would also, the softball field behind included. And fingers crossed, talk about some of the structural things, like some of our fencing that needs to be updated, perhaps see what it would be like to put a bathroom out there. See how much of that they'd be willing to cost. So fingers crossed, I'd like your permission to go ahead and submit this grant and see what we get.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pool update and discussion.
Motion to allow an increase in lifeguard manager wages to $16.50 per hour.
Motion's been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion?
That motion includes the pool concessions and lifeguard managers.
I guess I would say that the lifeguard manager should, because of the responsibility and their significance to the pool, I would say that they should be more than a concession manager.
The concessions manager is responsible for all the ordering of the food, the inventory of the food, the daily deposits, all the forms and everything. So they're the main money handler. They make sure all the money balances from the admissions and concessions every day.
Right. I still say that the responsibilities of the lifeguard manager far outweigh a concession manager.
You'd be wrong, but I mean that you're entitled to being wrong.
Yeah.
So the issue with personnel is that it's not an apples to apples comparison. Some of it has to do with whether or not the detailed nature of their job that they provide is crucial to the operation of the organization. Not just in this case, for example, lifeguard managers providing management over people who are looking after lives, and that's why it's so important. But also important is that the reconciling of petty cash is accurate all the time, because what you may not realize is that every April of every year, the auditors and I are going through all of these receipts to make sure they balance. And if those receipts do not balance, we do not have a clear audit. And it would be a shame for us to have an issue with our finances because of a pool.
Right. So I'm talking about $1 or $2 an hour less. I guess I don't see that would be terribly significant.
Historically, we've paid our managers the same thing, because they are all classified as managers. They don't necessarily, they can cross over if they are seeing another employee doing something wrong. They're still a manager of the pool. They do the scheduling and everything like that. Historically, managers have been paid the same. This concessions is new, but last year we paid them the same thing. They did the same responsibilities. Our adult manager, if there was one, is the one that's there every day overseeing everybody, and that one is paid more. But historically, we've never paid the manager a different salary based on their job. The only time we ever did a different salary based on their job description was if they had a WSI. So then we would give, I think in the past, it was like 50 cents or $1 more to the lifeguards if they had their WSI, like help us.
Which is also part of the reason we don't give them too much of a difference, Mr. Enk, is because their qualifications are not that different. It's a level playing field.
Except that the lifeguards have to be there for the pool to be open. The concessions would not have to be there.
That's a fair point.
Then who would we have on the front and tell them? But the lifeguards, if we have the lifeguards there, there's not enough lifeguards to rotate them in to work inside. So we wouldn't have anybody taking money or selling the food in the back.
Also a fair point.
Well, in the past, before there were concessions, the lifeguards did take a turn in front. They did do that.
Right, we had a dozen to 20 lifeguards, not 5 or 6.
And that's the
We're
logistical
on
thing.
time.
Yes.
On schedule at one time. It was
Right.
just who's ever there.
And that's the logistical kind of reality that limits your position and limits some of her position. It's the logistics of actually doing the work.
So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thorsten quote.
Oh, wait, we ain't done with the pool.
Oh, yeah, we had discussion there.
We talked about this scheduling last city council meeting, and that was not acceptable to the council. And yet it's still the same. Page 4.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and speak about the scheduling?
Page 3 reports the last page. The aquatic center, it says it's only Thursday through Saturday, or Sunday, excuse me. And then those 2 days of water aerobics, deep water aerobics. And that was not acceptable. We talked
We
about
tabled it or what did we do?
it. Yeah.
Do you have the minutes from that day?
They're my desk.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you recall? I don't recall it being tabled.
We talked, this was not acceptable. I know that wasn't acceptable.
It's not acceptable, but I believe the motion still passed.
Yeah.
But everything that was presented that was except for the,
And I thought we amended it and said that as soon as you get
There
more,
was something that was left open about this yet because it was not finalized. This part of it was not.
the rates and maybe the wages were fine, but not the schedule.
Right.
and it was, everything was subject if you had more employees, because you had 5 more people applying, or you know what I mean? So it was subject to manpower is what, and the more
There was supposed
manpower
to be
we got.
discussion with that one lady that was here. With her, did anything become of that or? That one mother?
Oh, Vanessa Laka?
There you go.
I believe so. Haven't there been some discussion?
She never contacted me with any ideas, that she had presented at the council, that she had ideas of how to make this work. She didn't present anything to myself or really
No.
as far as, here's an idea, here's how we can get the kids and everything. It was,
She did share that she didn't agree with the way it was, but she didn't share any particular solutions.
Have we had any recent applications?
one, come in that passed yesterday. So that brings our lifeguard total up to 4 consistent lifeguards. Well, 5 if you count the manager, that's 5 consistent lifeguards that I was spoken to. They said they're interested. Our WFI instructor, she also lifeguards, but it's only 2 days a week. And then she said she could maybe work the weekends also, because she does have another full-time job. So she does lifeguard certain days, especially when she's here for the aerobics. So really full-time, like lifeguard, you can count on to schedule every single day of the week. And I haven't heard who's passed the class yet. I've not been contacted by any of those kids that did that.
And we do have some community partners helping us with this too. Farmers and Merchant State Bank has offered to provide a bonus for teenage lifeguards who want to take the class and want to work the entire summer season.
Okay.
So as we publish this, it becomes better known. We're hoping to get more people. But again, we do not think that the dollar amount is what's keeping people from working. We just think there's less people available to do the work.
Well, and with COVID, there was 2 years where there was no classes given for lifeguarding. So I mean, that just put the,
And it's not just here, it's in other states. I happened to be in Iowa last weekend and spoke with a mother and a daughter that in their community, their pool was only going to be open 2 days a week because they had shared lifeguards with other communities. And so the pools were only able to be open 2 days a week in each town because it's short there too. So it's not just our area, it's an all over area thing. I've been in contact with the city administrator, Madison, her and I have talked about this multiple times. She contacts with Dawson and Cammy. So we're all in contact with each other, trying to figure out how to increase the workers, short of telling some of them told their children that you have no choice, you're coming home from college and you're working at the pool. We don't have that option. I don't have children old enough that can say that. I don't know who else does, but I mean, that's what some of these schools came down to. They said you're coming home, you're working at the pool, that's it.
We want the community to know that if we can add more days, we certainly will. This is not something that settles it forever. We're offering you what we can do right now. And as more availability and resources are before us, we'll make the adjustments.
Okay, that I can live.
We,
That I'm saying.
Of the kids that are in the current class.
I don't even know who's taking the class. No one's contacted me that they said I'm taking the class, I'd be interested. So I don't know.
we did have one parent, Mr. Geese, he reached out that his kids have taken.
And she took it in a different town, but she did take that class and she passed. But then I actually had one of our concessions applicants called and said, hey, I'm taking the lifeguard class. And he's the one that called me yesterday and said, yesterday, 2 days ago, called and said, hey, I passed, I want to be like,
So we're doing a lot of this. We're in the middle of exactly what you want. It's just that this is what we can do right now.
Right. Is there, is that class being held in Appleton or where is this?
no, it's in Dawson.
Can we sponsor a class in Appleton, maybe in the future, maybe even at the end of the current swimming lesson season, so that we can avoid issues like this maybe?
Well, and part of the issues too, it's not only our pool and the area pools, Lackaparra Valley High School normally held the class right out at the high school, but with the renovations out there, they've been using that room for storage, so they didn't have the class either. So I mean, it's very convenient because the kids can go right after school and take the class at the school.
Which again.
You know,
if
so I mean,
that's unavailable,
you know, but I mean, it's a snowball effect of a bunch of things, COVID and the pool being closed at the high school and everything led to this issue.
That's
so
a good
if there
idea.
is interest in a class,
Yeah.
I would say that we need to be proactive and maybe offer.
And the hard thing is, towards the end of the season, though, we run into sports, is our biggest thing, is we run into the fall sporting event starting. So it'd be something that we could talk with, Andy Soul is who Dawson has, that he lives in the area. That'd be something we could contact him and see. I think we did actually last year, we had contacted him, but we have to make sure there's enough, like a classroom area and enough pool time, and there's certain requirements that the city would have to work with on to make sure we have.
And last year, around that time, a good 30% of our lifeguards and surrounding youngsters in our community went back to college. So that's another factor. We're like competing with schedules and availability.
Is there any way in the future, I mean, we have these managers hired, if we could, I mean, I know it costs a lot of money, but have somebody that be the manager every year and make it like the job or? I mean, it seems like you're reinventing the wheel every year when we open the pool.
To be real honest, Dan, my recommendation would be to try to revive the swimming pool committee. They used to do a lot of, the work as far as getting out there saying, hey, come work for the pool, come do this, and they were there. They would, Tanya Kranz, they would work, they would be the adult managers. Even if we could have a swimming pool committee to just go out there and try to recruit an adult manager, kids, something like that, because we did have an adult manager one for this year that was there last year, but with family issues, she said she couldn't do it, but she did a phenomenal job in the month and a half that she was with us last year, and she's excited to come back.
Well, I think it's something we need to look at because it's frustrating to me to have the community think that the city's not doing their part to get this done and they have no idea what actually happens behind these doors. There's a lot more goes on than they see. And that's what's frustrating to me.
Emma,
Yes,
do we have an ad in the paper?
not currently.
Put one in.
Okay.
I agree with that. Put one in.
Yeah, put it in for.
Put one in the Madison and the Dawson paper.
Please
too.
put all these these new incentives that have come up recently too, all those. Maybe
You know,
that.
if we get to the
maybe
bottom of
that'll
how much the
attract somebody.
bonus would be or however that would work out at the end of the season, get that and put it in every paper in the area. We can start pulling kids from other areas if we have to.
Well, it's a lot of kids that live out of town that are just as far from Madison as they are from Appleton.
Correct.
Same with Dawson,
Not to beat this down again, but I've at least twice at the 5 o'clock news this week, this is the topic. They're talking.
Yeah, in
about
the cities and
this.
everywhere.
This is everywhere.
Minneapolis and all of them are having the same issues. So.
We just need to adjust. There's multiple factors that kind of have collided all at once. And I think it's what Mr. Ink said is salient. I think we do need to be a little more proactive and
Yes.
possibly work to house a camp, swimming camp or training ground here.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what, and I understand your point too, Willie, but the community needs to understand what your job is in that office and what Emma does as a clerk, and they're one person down in that office and Liz doing all the accounting. We don't have time to take care of the swimming pool. We need a committee or somebody to try to drive this thing and I mean, there's only so many things you can do.
it's like baseball.
Exactly.
We welcome people to volunteer and work with us. What we will not have is obstruction, disruption, or unnecessary silos be created. Barring that, please come and help.
Yep. All right, now we're on to the Thorsland quote.
Motion to allow for the purchase of services from Thorstead in an amount of $22,700.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. You go ahead.
So this is basically for those type of aerators that we have approved. The old contractor thought we would be able to come right in, rip the old ones out, put these new ones in, piece of cake. Once we got torn into it, we found out we don't have the equipment, we don't have the manpower. There's a lot more into this than what we can do. So Thorstead, I don't know if you guys have copies of this, but
Yep.
that's the work they're going to do. Remove the old ones, put the new ones in. They're actually going to concrete the foots where those bearings sit. So they're going to raise those back up so that sludge can't come in and out of there. So that's what this quote is for. I guess if you guys have any questions, I can answer them, but that's all I really have for you.
And the aerators, you guys have built them yourself.
The aerators are ready to go. We do have one more that we're in the process of finishing. But yeah, they're ready to drop right in.
How large are the stationary industrial aerators that you need removed?
I called the manufacturer on them. They're roughly 10,000 pounds, I think, but they're 20 feet wide, I think is what they are, 16 to 20 feet wide.
So we don't have equipment.
We don't have equipment, plus, they're out in the middle of this, which is 100 feet out. Then you can get a crane to reach out there, pick those out and everything, so.
Yep.
We just don't have anything. I don't even know what to tell him or what the opinion
No,
of that
you-
part of the reason.
Do I know what these look like, or it's not the big wheel going around?
It's the big wheel.
Okay.
So if you guys wanted to, you can sure go out there. We did have the dome, the fiberglass dome that we took off of one, so you can actually see what needs to come out now, so.
If I had to describe it, it looks like a hairbrush with flat spindles instead of skinny ones that's kind of spinning like a brush to get air into the pool. Is that correct?
Yep, it's basically like a 4-inch steel shaft, and then they have paddle wheels all the way down the whole shaft. So. But motors and bearings on those are going out. There's nothing you can do with them other than rip them out, put those new ones in. So.
Well, I can definitely understand you can't handle this one, but I know you guys have done a lot of stuff on your own out there where you can.
Yeah.
And that has saved our city a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
we appreciate that too.
Yeah.
This is best case scenario and you're well comfortable working with Thorstead.
Yeah, actually, this is one of few that could even remotely do it this year. Everybody else is years out before they would even be able to come and do the work. So.
Well, and we don't dare wait. That thing has
Exactly.
been, that
This
thing
is
has been so
something that-
mismanaged for so long. We got to start stepping on the gas on that thing too, or we're going to have trouble.
We have them locking up already, in the summer months, that's when you need them the most for the oxygen, so.
Yep.
The sooner the better.
That's when the bearings are going to get hotter and everything in the summer. So, no, I think it's a good idea.
And I think for residents at home, it's important that our community understands that we are a little atypical for a community our size. Our wastewater treatment plant is a Class A plant, whereas our water treatment plant is a Class C plant. The reason for that is we must accommodate for significant industrial use for wastewater services. A lot of communities don't have to engage with that unless they're a larger community. So it means that on the wastewater treatment and professional technical maintenance, you need different tiers of individuals like Brady with different licensures to be able to handle the work. So even to do a basic maintenance of operating equipment out there, you have to have a specialized background, 2 classes beyond what you need for the water operations, which is atypical. Typically, you'll have the same level of class of operation for a water and a wastewater plant. So our city has been adjusting for quite some time for dealing with this. And I just want the community at home to know that we're doing well. We're working with Apex. We have submitted loan applications and preliminary studies to the Minnesota Public Pollution Agency to look at our wastewater operations as well. And just recently, I sent an email to council where MNP at PCA determined that an environmental assessment would not be needed for that project. And that is the very first step in getting financing and addressing those infrastructure needs for that.
I have one more thing to talk about. We're slowly getting the new water plant up and running. There's gonna be brown water. We're out flushing. We're trying to get all that cleared up. So don't expect it to be, crystal clear water right away. This might take a month or so to get everything kind of flushed out of the pipes and everything. So, but we're working on it.
And that's not as a result of the media in the new plant. That's as a result of the distribution system and the hydrants.
Yeah. So, I mean, media in the old plant, after 60 years, it collects in the pipes underground. So now that we have fresh water, it's also a chemistry background. We have a completely different chemistry in the new water than we did in the old water, just in the process of treating it. So that's going to play into a little effect too with what's already in the pipes. But now that we can produce the amount of water we need to really flush good, we will be able to get all that out of the pipes.
Could you describe what the media is? Because some of the people back home, maybe like me, just learning what that is.
So in the filters that you have, I think we have 5 feet of, there's 2 different types of sand. There's, can't think of the long name off the top of my head, but there's 2 different types. You have about 5 feet. And basically over time, as it gets bad, they break down after you backwash, and that will actually get in through the filters, the little nozzles at the bottom, and that can be carried out into the water. So basically the old plant is you're actually just getting really fine particles, and then you also get, once that sand breaks down, you get more iron, more manganese that the filter just can't filter out, so it just gets kind of pushed right through the filter.
So the media then is sand of different cuts and different sizes through which the water drips down through a filter to clean it.
Cleans it up,
Okay.
And then, you get backwashes that agitate that back up and send it out to the waste. So then you're starting over with clean sand every time.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us know in case we get questions about that.
Anything else, Brady?
No.
All right. Will be there any other discussion? Okay, we have the motion on the floor to have Thorsland do the work at the sewer plant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Old business, seeing none. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.